Automatic yellow card for one Franco Panizo. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Miami Total Football Radio, the show, your Wednesday edition of this daily run of episodes that we're having this week in the lead up to the MLS Cup Final. You can see some baby stuff there. Of course, I'm Franco Panizo. I get a yellow card because we are 13 minutes late to starting the show. It's not really my fault, but being as that I am the captain of the ship here, I take full responsibility and I give myself an early yellow card. I had ordered a TV on Black Friday from Best Buy. Took advantage of some Black Friday sales. That TV was supposed to be here between 3 and 7 p.m. A lot of stuff happened for the people that were supposed to bring it, and a lot of phone calls were made. And they said they couldn't bring it today, that they were going to bring it on Friday. And then when I made it known that I wasn't too happy with that, they apparently called me at 8:45, 8:50 to tell me that they were outside. I even told the guy, I was like, if you can't do this in 20 minutes, then I don't need this to be done today because I've got something else to do. I've got another commitment. They did it. It took them a little bit longer than 20 minutes, but that is why. That is the reason for the tardiness, but all the same, that falls on me. So, yellow card for me, and apologies to all of you guys. Thank you for tuning in for the third day in a row, if this is your third day in a row. I'm by myself today. Tough to get somebody else on. Alonso Contreras was traveling to Washington, D.C. Andrea Llanes is under the weather, woke up under the weather. And Jose and Simon obviously have other things to attend to after giving us some time yesterday. So, it's just me, myself, and I today. Of course, give us a like, a follow, a share, subscribe. Hit the bell button to stay up to date with all the videos that we provide here on Miami Total Football Radio, the show. This should be a fairly brief episode because there's only a couple of other items that I want to talk about before tomorrow. Thursday is the big day where there's real availability with the team. There was some today. There was an MLS community event. Ian Frey, Yannick Bright, Noah Allen were all in attendance, as was, and I'm saying this facetiously, Inter Miami legend Brek Shea. Brek Shea was also in attendance, and I imagine that was MLS's doing, not Inter Miami's doing. But Brek Shea was also there. They went to a school, the players did, and the former player in Brek Shea. They went to a school and kicked the ball around with them, and it was just a community event. There were some interviews done, but nothing of real substance about MLS Cup on Saturday or the MLS Cup Final, aside from Ian Frey saying that he feels he's ready, he's 100% and can start this weekend if he's called upon. That was a debate yesterday. Who do you start, Ian Frey or Chelo Weekend? Again, I still think Chelo will get the call. Even though I would start Ian Frey. I would start Ian Frey, but I think Chelo gets the call. It's a gamble. It's a gamble to put in Ian Frey if he's still not fully fit. Maybe he is. He said he is, but players always feel like they're fully fit. So we'll talk about first the buzz heading into this game, because the lack of availability, I think, plays a part in this topic, in this subject. For a lot of you, if not most of you, this will be your first MLS Cup. For those of us that have seen MLS Cups in other cities, that have covered other MLS Cups, I've covered 10. This will be my 11th. There's usually a bigger buzz locally as to the game, right? Now, some cities are different than others, of course. Some downtown areas, you feel the MLS Cup vibe, but you also see it in terms of coverage. And right now, through Wednesday of MLS Cup Final week, aside from the soccer bubble that a lot of us live in and choose to occupy ourselves in, there's just not a whole lot of buzz about this weekend's championship match. That'll drum up tomorrow. Again, Inter Miami will have availability. Mascherano will have a press conference. The Vancouver Whitecaps will also have availability and a press conference. They'll be here in South Florida. So tomorrow's the big day for interviews in terms of the game itself. Friday, there's some interviews as well, but they're to a lesser extent, not as intense of a day in terms of media as tomorrow will be. I think that is a part of it. That is a part of the reason why this doesn't feel like a regular MLS Cup final week. Another reason is, and I know that the Messi fans will take exception to this, but Inter Miami, since Messi has arrived, has taken a more South American identity. That's not to say that they didn't have it before, but they've adopted more of this closed off Latin American, South American identity, mindset, and just overall approach, right? This is MLS Cup Final we're talking about. And as far as we know, today, Wednesday night, we're not getting any interviews with Jorge Mas, David Beckham in the lead up to the game. This would be a perfect moment for them to talk about, what Saturday could represent, the atmosphere. It's a perfect opportunity to do that, and yet they're not doing that. And it is completely different from what was the case when Inter Miami started 5 years ago, 6 seasons ago. Jorge Mas and David Beckham were much more present in front of the cameras, much more willing to talk, much more frequent in their media presences and availabilities. You don't see that as much right now. You haven't seen that as much over the last couple of seasons. And that influence that Messi has helped shape is part of that. Definitely part of that. Hopefully, for MLS's sake, things pick up in a big way over the next couple of days. I have no doubt that the stadium will sell out for the game. But in terms of the attention it draws, hopefully, things get better over the next couple of days, because it doesn't feel fully like an MLS Cup week. At least not yet. Now, another part has to be said is that the World Cup draw is happening in Washington, D.C. On Friday afternoon. So a lot of media, a lot of executives are going that way to DC, the nation's capital, to take part in some networking, shaking of the hands, being in the hot spot for world soccer for the next couple of days. DC will be the hot spot. You'll have people from all over the world, former players, executives, FIFA members. And MLS is investing some of its time and its money into being present there as opposed to here. Now, that's not Inter Miami's fault. That's just a schedule thing. Just happened to not work out. Maybe MLS could have avoided this by scheduling it a week before or a week later. Whatever the case is, this is the reality that we are faced with. But a lot of people are going to Washington, D.C. before coming to South Florida practically just on Saturday morning for the game on Saturday afternoon, and then departing either Saturday afternoon or Sunday at some point. So because of that draw, it's taken some luster. It's taken some shine off of MLS Cup week. Normally, again, from experience, I can tell you, normally executives, media people, owners from other teams, players from other teams, they're all invited to MLS Cup Final week, or a lot of them are. And there's just this very big MLS type of vibe. There's parties that are held, and I'm not talking about like nightclub type parties. There's like, just events that are held in makeshift tents or locations. And there's a lot of networking, socializing, a lot of like capping the year. That's where a lot of breaking news tends to happen for reporters. Reporters pick up things within conversations, and the news starts to come out at the end of the year. But again, because of the World Cup draw, some of those events are being held in Washington, D.C. There's not any real media mixer or those gatherings, those social gatherings that executives take part in, owners, general managers take part in, and maybe work out deals. Because once MLS Cup's over, you're going to see there's going to be a flurry of moves that start to get announced by other teams. It happens pretty quickly after the final. It's like everyone's waiting till the final to make them official, but there's already deals pacted or already agreed to. So again, those will be happening in Washington, D.C., some of those events. There's nothing on the schedule, nothing on the agenda as far as I know, as far as we've been told here in South Florida, which again robs the city of a real atmosphere, a real MLS Cup atmosphere, which is unfortunate. Don Garber will also be doing his MLS State of the League address, something he does annually, multiple times a year. But he will not be doing it in South Florida. Instead, he will be doing it tomorrow, Thursday evening in Washington, D.C. at Audi Field, DC United's home stadium, where he'll sit there and talk about all the things that MLS has accomplished over the year, looking ahead to the MLS Cup Final, and then fielding questions from reporters in attendance about anything that can come up about MLS. So all that is taken away from South Florida. All those things should be happening in South Florida, but they're not. So it's unfortunate, but maybe the next MLS Cup that Inter Miami hosts, whenever that is, you'll get more of a vibe and more of the ambiance that an MLS Cup provides. Other than that, hopefully we see the local TV cameras show up. Hopefully that generates more of a buzz, more of an interest. I don't know about you guys. I don't know if, outside of your friends groups that are soccer people, if you've seen any advertisements, any flyers, if you're hearing other people that are maybe more casual soccer fans talking about the game on Saturday, because I'm not seeing very many ads. But MLS and Inter Miami, as an extension of MLS, has never been very good at marketing itself. I don't know if that's just because it's a choice. They decide not to invest their money in that manner, or not too much in that manner, because they don't think there's a huge payoff there. I don't know what the strategy is behind it, but clearly there's room for improvement, in my opinion. Room for improvement. Focusing on the game itself. I really want to move this thing. Hold on, guys. I'm going to try to move this. There we go. No, there it goes. My missus will kill me later. Focusing on the game. One thing I want to talk about here is the mind games that Inter Miami play. And for those of you that are devout Messi fans, this is probably not the episode for you, unless you want to get riled up and have a go at me here in the comment section. But I do think it's an element that gets overlooked by and large. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it is a thing. It is something that Inter Miami does. Es algo que es una característica de Inter Miami. It's just one of their characteristics in this Messi era. And that is that they find ways to get under their opponent's skin, which is fine. That's fair. All fair game. You're trying to best your opponent. And other teams do the same, right? But Inter Miami usa su peso. Inter Miami throws its weight around. They know they've got Messi. They've got Busquets, Jordi Alba, Luis Suarez, Rodrigo de Paul. They've got several players that have played at very high levels, where the games are completely different in terms of intensity than they are in MLS, where there's more of a psychological aspect. And you see it consistently. You definitely saw it against NYCFC, but you see it consistently. You see how they work the refs, how they use um their reputation, their prestige, who they are to help try to influence decisions, right? Because MLS has a rule where you can't have mass confrontation. You can't have MLS wants to avoid what we see in other leagues, which I don't necessarily agree with. You guys might, but MLS has a rule where they try to avoid a bunch of players crowding the referee and asking for cards or trying to persuade him to referee a certain way. That's a rule. Yeah, we see it with Inter Miami often, and there's no real punishment. And you see how Messi and co talk to the referee, and you see how they also constantly try to jaw at the opposition because they know that they're largely going to get away with it. And look, if that's a card you're dealt and you want to play it, absolutely. Absolutely. But if you look at the game against NYCFC, Inter Miami, in probably the clearest example as of late, gets into that verbal exchange, the heated verbal exchange with Maxi Morales and New York City FC. And literally moments after the exchange, a shut off or an unfocused New York City FC gives up a goal. And I don't think it's coincidence. I don't think it is just sheer luck that it happened in that way. I think Inter Miami goes into games knowing that they can throw their weight around because of the names they have, their pedigree, the stature of the players. And they work that psychological part. They do the mind games. I mean, we could talk about all the different examples, subtle or not too subtle different examples, where Inter Miami has opted to try to win those mind games, to try to gain a competitive advantage, right? Because this is not going to, generally speaking, decide a game, but it can help you win a game. And this is something someone told me that was on a team for a long time at a high level. You want to win as many of the little battles as possible because they add up to helping you win the big one. And Inter Miami clearly knows that they can maybe persuade referees, maybe win some calls in their favor, maybe rattle the opponent. I mean, there was the exchange with Maxi Morales between DePaul and Messi and Morales, 3 Argentines, 3 compatriots, 3 Argentinos. That yesterday there was a report as to what was said between the 3 of them in that heated war of words. I can't verify the validity of it. I'm not familiar with the person who said it, but it's out there on Twitter. You can find it probably pretty easily if you type in Morales, Messi, DePaul. But he chronicled, this reporter chronicled, or this media member chronicled what happened between the 3, what was said. I can't verify nor deny that that's what was said, but he had a pretty detailed account of what happened. And if you go off of that account, let's say that account is real, then you can see that Inter Miami really tries to get on his skin. And we've seen it with Messi and Argentina, right? We've seen Messi and DePaul trash talk and try to piss off the opposition, not just to piss them off, not just to rile them up, but just to, you can tell it's strategic. They want them to lose focus. They want them to get so upset, que pierden los papeles, that they lose the plot. You know, Argentina versus the Netherlands at the last World Cup is a big one. El Dibu Martinez, Argentina's goalkeeper, we've seen his antics and how he has treated opponents. And look, at the end of the day, you get paid to win. How you go about it is up to you. Hay formas. There are ways to do things. But at the end of the day, the winners get remembered, right? And if Inter Miami wins, then I don't think, at least fans of the South Florida side, I don't think they'll care all too much. But for other teams and other fans, obviously, it could rub you the wrong way and it could make you want to root against Inter Miami. But to me, it's clear that it's part of the strategy, right? And if you go back again to this past weekend, Javier Mascherano was pretty calm, was pretty lax, sitting like this on the bench. The broadcast even focused on him at one point. And he was just sitting with his arms crossed on the bench. Normally, you would expect the coach to try to calm his players down, right? You don't want to risk getting an unnecessary yellow card. You don't want to risk getting an unnecessary ejection. But it was like Mascherano knows that his players will push it to a certain level that they can. They won't cross the line. They'll keep it at the line. They'll push the envelope without tossing it. So I do think that it is strategic, and I do think we'll see it on Saturday against the Vancouver Whitecaps. If the game is getting out of hand, if Vancouver is finding a lot of success in transition, tactical foul here, and then some war of words, some trash talk to try to get Vancouver to lose its focus. I imagine that's a conversation that's had by Inter Miami in some way, shape, or form. If I'm the Vancouver Whitecaps, I try to prepare for that. Thiago Martins, the NYCFC defender, when I asked him, said, "We know that they would like this. We know that they like to do this. And we can't fall for it. But we did." So the same thing goes true for Vancouver. Same thing holds true for Vancouver. And what should be a heck of a good match. Let's go through some comments here. First one's from Anthony Manzano, 3551. Franco, if Miami wins the MLS Cup, where do we get seated in the Champions Cup? Seated. That's a good question. I don't have the answer off the top of my head. Anthony also adds, Franco, with it seeming that Sergio Busquets is going to retire for the season, do you think they bring in 2 transfer midfielders to replace him? I think they definitely will look to bring in 1. I don't know about 2. Now, obviously, Busquets is tough to replace in terms of what he can give you on the ball. But I don't know if they have the ability to bring in 2. I think a lot of, and I'm not saying this is the case for you, Anthony, could be, I don't know. A lot of the fans that have started watching MLS because of Messi don't understand that the league has rules and regulations. I see the comments that come in sometimes on the YouTube videos of the interviews, of the podcast, and people are like, oh, they need a center back. Why haven't they signed a center back? Well, they can't sign a center back because if they sign a center back of quality and caliber, that takes away the money that they have to sign a player at another position that has quality and has a certain caliber. So you can't just buy great players across the entire lineup. It's just not realistic based on MLS's rules today. This is why you've seen the defense pale in comparison in terms of the quality it has. The defense has played a lot better as of late. But the names and the skill, the overall, aside from Jordi Alba, who's an attacking left back, more so than a stout defender, it's why you see that. It's why that gap exists. Boss Daddy 85 is back, and he says Miami's going to run through them. And Vancouver was 8-4-5 on the road in the poor Western Conference. They used their shitty pitch and home field advantage all year. FIFA highlights says Inter Miami are going to destroy Vancouver like 4-1. I've predicted Inter Miami will win. I did say yesterday I think they win 4-2. I think there will be goals in this game. Of course, knowing the commentator's curse, that means that the game will end 1-0 off of a penalty kick, and that will be it. But I do think there's goals in this game. And I think things will open up after the first goal. And if there's more goals that come, then it's going to just be helter-skelter. It's going to be all over the place. Un partido muy abierto. Quizás comienza cerrado, pero con el transcurso de los minutos, yo veo que el partido se va a abrir. I see a tight game, a narrow game at the beginning, like any final. But with the goal and with the minutes, I think you're going to see an open game. Because what? Do we really expect Inter Miami to score? Let's say they score in the first half hour. Then they're just going to stop attacking. Mascherano's going to do the candado to try to close things out. I don't at home in the final. I don't see that. I don't see that. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. And here we go. Pedri Potter. General Franco, if you can't find any guests, let any fan join with you. I'm not calling you boring, but listening to a single person talking is a bit monotonous. I agree with you, Pedri Potter. It's not my preference to do a podcast by myself. It's not the preference. I tried for a large part of the day to find someone to come join me, but could not be done. I reached out to former players who don't watch Inter Miami, specifically, but players I have relations with, and no one could make it happen. So I had to make good on my promise to you guys and have a show today. I almost scrapped it. I almost said, no, I'm not going to do it. I've got the TV thing to deal with. But I was like, no, I want to make good on this. Even though there's not much buzz locally here in South Florida, I want to treat this game like the big game that it is. It is a historic game for Inter Miami, a chance to be something very, very special. So I want to treat it with the magnitude of importance that it deserves, and that's daily coverage. That's daily coverage. It's been unfortunate. I'm not going to lie to you. From my seat, from my colleague's seat, and for you guys, whether you guys see it directly or not, it's unfortunate that Inter Miami hasn't had real interviews until tomorrow because it gives us less to talk about, right? It gives us less to bring you guys news on. It gives you guys less to consume, less to talk amongst yourselves with your friends, your family, your group chats, whatever the case is. It doesn't ramp up the excitement that there has been little to no availability to this point in the week. Again, there was some today, but in a different type of environment. It's something that has to change. Something that has to change. But again, it is part of the Messi influence. Messi is not speaking this week, it doesn't look like. I'm curious to see if he speaks after the game, if Inter Miami wins, and if he's named MLS Cup MVP, because there is a trophy for the MLS Cup's best player. Be curious to see if he does any interviews on Saturday. I doubt it highly that he would talk if they lost, but if they won and everything's peachy keen, everything's wonderful in South Florida, then maybe there's a chance he talks. Maybe they tried to get him to talk after the NYCFC route. Michel Giannoni tried to get some words from him after Jorge Mas spoke when they were handing him the Eastern Conference trophy, and Messi just kind of like looked at him and walked away. So we'll see. We'll see. Should Suarez start, says FIFA Highlights 921? I think it's pretty clear he will not. I think it's pretty obvious. I think it's going to be more or less the same lineup that we've seen for the last few games. The one question mark is Cello or Frey. Maybe Mascherano does go with Ian Frey. Maybe he deems Frey ready to play 90 minutes and deems him as giving the team a better shot against Vancouver's speedy outside players. And that's going to be one of the keys to the game. How Inter Miami handles those one-on-one battles out wide. We haven't really talked about Busquets and Jordi Alba, but this will be the final game of their careers. And obviously, you would hope for them that they finish it on a high, that they finish it with the storybook ending. Que terminen como campeones. They ride off into the sunset as champions. I'm sure they will be pretty motivated, slightly emotional inside when they step on the field. Let's see how they do, because obviously that will be a big narrative. How did they do in their final game? But again, I think Inter Miami is the heavy favorite. I've said that 3 shows in a row. I don't think that changes between now and Saturday, in my opinion. But let's see what the protagonists, let's see what the teams say tomorrow when we have the press conference with the coaches, press conferences with the players, interviews with other players. Tomorrow will be the day, you guys, if you're going to be scrolling for updates on X, Twitter, Instagram, whatever the case is, tomorrow's the day to get the updates, because tomorrow's the day with most media access. Thomas Miller will speak, if I'm not mistaken. Thomas Miller will speak. Jay Vasquez 974 says most of the local media outlets in Miami cover Inter Miami like they cover high school football. We can go on the side tangent there to take stock of what happens. It's a chicken and egg thing, man. This is what I can tell you from my experience of doing this for 15 years. Inter Miami doesn't help itself in gaining local coverage with how it approaches doing media, right? There's only so many reporters, there's only so many resources, so much money, so much time you can invest to all of these teams that you have in South Florida, professional and college, right? And if you are having to choose between going to speak to Bam Adebayo of the Miami Heat or Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins, or whatever hot college player is in for the University of Miami, or you can go talk to Rocco Rios Novo, no offense, then I think it's pretty clear which way you go. If the bigger name players spoke consistently, then there's more of a reason to have media presence for local media outlets. But they don't, because they don't see a return. Now, there's a bigger discussion to be had there about MLS and whether MLS generates enough interest. And that's absolutely a fair criticism, and I share that criticism. But things could be done better to help generate interest. I don't think not having interviews as a team, as the local team, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday helps generate interest for Saturday. But at the end of the day, if Inter Miami's strictly and solely focused on winning, and they do win on Saturday, then most of you won't really give a rat's ass if they did interviews or not in the lead up to the title game. But you would still like there to be more discourse, more conversation. Think about the Super Bowl, right? The Super Bowl, days leading up to it, it's nonstop. A lot of media coverage. Practically every player is put up to talk. Big players, end of the roster players. It's nonstop media machine. You're constantly feeding the machine, constantly giving people something to talk about. MLS doesn't need to take it to that level, but it could be better than what it is. Imagine you just had no interviews until Saturday. Then it's just us talking, you guys, us here on the media side, just talking X's and O's over and over and over again. Supposition, speculation. There's only so much you can talk about if there's not actual tangible news to grab onto. Tomorrow's the day. Dr. T5405 says, no Suarez, are you crazy? Laughing my ass off. We go with Silvetti. Dr. T5405, which is the first time I believe this doctor comments, says Messi's relationship with the media and the public is non-existent. I think this is a reason, unfortunately, why we're looked at so negatively amongst MLS fans. I don't know who he means by we are. Does that mean Messi fans? I don't know. Brad with 2 Ds Rotman 8262. Set pieces seem to still be an issue. Hopefully they are working on better man marking and coverage. Don't want to give up an easy goal. That is a weakness of Inter Miami. That is a weakness. And if the Vancouver Whitecaps are as well prepared as they should be, they'll look to exploit that. Because Inter Miami is not a team graced with a lot of size. No tienen demasiado tamaño. No les sobra, right? They don't have an excess or a surplus of tall players. They're not blessed with a whole lot of height. But that's because they've clearly prioritized a different profile of player. More technical, better with the ball. That doesn't mean everybody's like that. I mean, I don't know if I would consider Peluca Falcon the most eloquent or the most elegant with the ball at his feet. But you get the idea, because obviously they have a certain style to play. King Callum says, how many viewers do you think the final will get? I've seen people predict 10 million plus. Laughing emoji, laughing emoji, laughing emoji. It's a good question, man. It is a good question because the game is on Big Fox on TV. Now, this does compete with college football, so a lot of the country will not be watching Lionel Messi because they'll be watching their college football. But that it is on Big Fox is a plus. And that the casual fan will be able to tune in, that's a plus. You also will have, the Apple TV option. You can watch it worldwide. It's Messi in a final. I don't know. Could maybe hit 10 million if we're talking worldwide. If we're talking locally in the US, I don't know. MLS likes to sell a lot of propaganda, from my personal experience. And I can tell you guys this. You don't have to believe me. Some people agree with the way I cover things. Some people don't. But I've been in New York. I've been in the offices. I used to work for, I used to freelance for MLS on the editorial side. I made relationships, friendships, even got a girlfriend at one point who worked at MLS. So I've heard a lot of things. I know a lot of how it is done behind closed doors. And they do sell a lot of propaganda. MLS does sell a lot of propaganda. A lot of what they say and how they shape the numbers and how they tell you they're in such great shape. It's not real. It's not the reality of the situation. Because if it was the reality of the situation, if MLS was as healthy as it wanted to be, then the whole vibe and the whole coverage and the whole everything wouldn't feel so niche. It wouldn't be so hard to find, hard to come across. And that's my opinion, but that's also just from my experience. Sean Callahan says if Frey doesn't start, our backline will be under 5'10". Short Kings. The Short King shout is funny. He did say today that he feels ready to go. He feels ready to go. Sean Callahan, 8080 says 4 to 5 million viewers local is his prediction. Canada will be carrying most of the viewers. That's what I'm saying. If you're talking strictly US, not even Canada, if we're talking strictly US, do they get 10 million? Tough. If you're talking worldwide, you want to throw Canada, you want to throw in Argentina, you want to throw in, the rest of the world, I mean, shit, 10 million is doable. 10 million is doable. Jay Vasquez, 974, adding to what I said earlier, it's going to be free on Apple Season Pass, also on Fox, but there's almost no talk or hype for the game. I've seen more about the game on YouTube than anywhere else. Partnering with Apple was a mistake. I mean, I'm not going to keep banging on the drum, but I think Apple, that agreement definitely hurt MLS in a lot of ways. It helped them in some ways, but hurt them in a lot of ways. But I think this is also just a sign of where MLS is, right? And they've kind of stagnated. The league has kind of hit a plateau. Inter Miami, for you guys, of course, that are Inter Miami fans that maybe don't watch so much of the rest of the league, maybe you do, but you're probably in the minority. Inter Miami is the exception, right? It's excitement. There's big names, better quality soccer, football. That's the exception. Across the league, maybe you could throw in LAFC as an exception as well. Maybe Vancouver, maybe. At least kind of hit a wall as to now, how do you take the next step? And there's conversations being had. You've obviously seen that they've flipped the schedule, or sorry, the calendar, beginning in 2027. So they're trying new things, or they're on the brink of trying new things. But the league has clearly hit a wall in terms of where it's at. And I think that also plays a part in the lack of general buzz and excitement, because it's crazy. It's Messi, right? Arguably the GOAT. I know all of you call him the GOAT. I call him arguably the GOAT. It's a conversation to be had. Arguably the GOAT. In a final with Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba, who are two top players in the final game of their careers. Rodrigo de Paul and Luis Suarez are also on the squad. Thomas Müller, German national team World Cup winner, is also involved. I mean, there's a lot of big names in this game. And yet it still doesn't make much of a dent in the national conversation here in the United States. Tells you where MLS is, tells you where the sport is, in a big way. And if you look at I don't know if you guys have seen the news that came out today, but if you look at the panel, the list of panel for the World Cup draw this Friday, it's pretty much just FIFA trying to tap into the crossover of all the other sports, of mainstream American sports, which I'm not, listen, if that's your strategy, go for it. Maybe that works. But you've got, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you had Rio Ferdinand, who's going to be like the conductor. And then you've got Tom Brady, I think Wayne Gretzky. Who was the Shaquille O'Neal? There's one more. I know Eli Manning's doing something as well, but he's not one of the. I don't think he's one of the. I don't know what you call them. The ball pickers or whatever you want to call them. Who's the other person? It's gonna kill me if I don't tell you guys. So let me see. Let me see who it is. FIFA World Cup draw panel. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, okay. That didn't do anything for me. Oh, and it was the Yankees player. Aaron Judge. There we go. Aaron Judge. So they've literally tried to tap into a big name in every other sport, and they're clearly going for that crossover appeal to try to generate more interest from the mainstream American audience, to try to get the people that don't tune into MLS, the people that don't watch Messi, the people that are indifferent about seeing whether he wins or loses on Saturday. That fan, FIFA's trying to win over with massive crossover appeal at the World Cup draw. And I imagine you're going to see a lot more of that between now, December, and next summer when the World Cup starts. Let's see, what else? Ish-R30 says Kevin Hart as well. Oh, I haven't seen Kevin Hart. I like Kevin Hart. I think he's funny. He's exagerado, but I know that's part of his shtick. He exaggerates, but he's still funny. Pythias2191 says, Franco, do you know why MLS persistently uses 12 men for Miami commentating? Not sure he is Messi fan friendly. Seems counterproductive. And Sean Callahan 8080 says the Village people are a crazy pull. Yeah. Maybe we'll see some dancing. Hopefully not the cringe dancing, though. Hopefully it'll be like some fun dancing, not some like. I could definitely see it going cringe very, very quickly. Going to Pythias's question about Twelman. Twellman's clearly in Apple and MLS's eyes, the top English commentator. Whether you agree with that, whether I agree with that, that's clearly how they view him. And that's why he gets a lot of Inter Miami games. Let's not forget, when Messi first arrived, Taylor Twellman was doing every Inter Miami game. It wasn't until maybe last season, definitely this season, that they started to take him away from Inter Miami games and put him on other of the bigger weekly matchups elsewhere in the league. And then if there was a really big matchup for Inter Miami, then they bring him back. Clearly, they rate him. I don't know what your guys' opinion is. I have mine. If you really want to know, I'll tell you. I don't think he's terrible. Don't think he's great. Think he's a bit limited. Think his overemphasis on goal calls, like it's his go-to. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I do think he also gets a lot of his information, obviously, from. I think he buys too much into what he's told sometimes by coaches. Buys the company line a little too easily. But that's just my opinion. For whatever my opinion is worth. WG Endo says, buenas noches, mi gente. Inter en la final. Pink heart emoji, black heart emoji. And he says, Franco, ha bajado de peso, te ves bien. I hope so, man. Because this baby weight this year, I'm probably the heaviest I've been in my life, or have been the last few months, which I'm not super happy about. I've always been, I won't say slim, but I've always been in okay shape. I mean, I'm also almost 40, brother. So, but I have gained weight, and I know I have gained weight. And the Messi fans crack me up when they come at me on Twitter for whatever take I have that's not pro Messi, because a lot of them call me gordo or carón or cachetón or whatever the case is, and it makes me laugh. Like, I honestly don't get mad. I honestly, legitimately, it does not bother me, man. My dad was in the military, rest in peace. So I'm not, words don't really bother me. Words don't really affect me, let alone words put by anonymous accounts. I also have like a kind of mean sense of humor, so it makes me laugh a lot of times. But yeah, I've definitely gained weight. I'm working on it. I was actually getting in my rhythm at the gym again, but this week, no gym, just not enough time with all the MLS Cup stuff going on, plus the daily Miami Total Football radio shows. Boss Dad 85 says, 12-man always starts talking, doesn't know where he's going. You can hear him thinking of what to say next. It's always like nonsense. WG Endo says, 40? You don't look a day over 25, brother. I know, I get that a lot. I'm actually 37 years old. 37 years old, man. Had my baby this year. So, yeah, man. I know I look younger than I am, but the internal system it's got its miles. It's got its miles. Sean Callahan says, Jim can wait. We need this more. You guys have always have been probably the best part of doing this. Like, I like talking soccer. I like talking football. I like doing so with my colleagues, Jose, Andrea, even though sometimes we disagree in a big way. Love talking soccer with Simon, who's a longtime friend. I've known Simon since I started in this industry. But you guys legitimately, you guys make me laugh. And whether you say good things, bad things, Pedri Potter in here talking his shit, I don't shy away from it, man. I enjoy it. I really, really enjoy it. It's definitely one of the things that keeps me going, because trust me, covering MLS, even at this stage with Messi, is not the most lucrative venture. There could be other things done that would make me more money, or any of us that are in the media that would make us more money, other sports that would make us more money. But you guys are a good time. You guys are a good time. Octavius Anti-Baines 2526. Are you going to the game? How much is the ticket to go? I am going to the game. I have been credentialed. I mentioned earlier, this will be my 11th MLS Cup, so I can field a full 11 now of MLS Cups that I have covered. How much are tickets? I don't know because I'm not buying tickets. I know they were very expensive. I think they're starting to come down. Maybe you could find something more affordable tomorrow morning. Because once the interviews come and once things are said and once the interest and the buzz starts ramping up with the coverage tomorrow from all corners, then I think tickets will probably start to go back up again. Justin L9X8D says, I hope Miami let Allende go. He's not a DP. Bring Timo Werner on a max TAM contract. I want to talk on these Timo Werner rumors. And by the way, since we have 18 minutes left before I hit my limit, and then I will red card myself if I go over. So I have to be done in 18 minutes. If you guys have questions, because I've covered what I wanted to cover in terms of topics, but if you guys have questions about anything Inter Miami related or anything at all, pop culture, my life, go ahead, fire away. I'll answer here for the next 10, 15 minutes before we wrap up the show. Listen, I cannot say that I have heard that Timo Werner rumors are accurate, nor have I heard that they are false yet. But they don't make any sense to me. So if I were you guys, I would take those rumors with a grain of salt when it comes to Timo Werner, because he has no connection to this Inter Miami group. Maybe it's true, but I have a hard time believing that it's true. Every other player, or most every other player that has come to Inter Miami in the last 2 years has either been South American, Argentine, had a direct connection to Messi, like Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets, who were his longtime teammates. I have a hard time seeing Timo Werner being a player. What happens, and I'm not saying this is necessarily the case here. Could be, but I don't know if it is. And I saw this when I covered the New York Red Bulls. I finished studying at FAU. I got a freelance, I can't call it a job offer, but I got a freelance opportunity to cover the Red Bulls for MLS. And I covered the Red Bulls when the Red Bulls were the it team in the league. My first season there, you had Thierry Henry, you had Rafa Marquez, the Mexican center back / center midfielder. You had Tim Cahill, who arrived, the Australian legend. So they were one of the it teams along with the LA Galaxy. And what happens when you are the it team in MLS in a big market? Agents use your name as a bargaining chip at the negotiating table with whatever teams they are talking to, right? Because it drives up the value and the cost of their client, whichever player it may be. So back then, in those days, you would see players, random players, linked with the New York Red Bulls. And more often than not, they weren't even true. There was no substance to the reports. It was just an agent telling a gullible reporter something, and the reporter putting it out there, and then people buying into that. Therefore, oh, no, look, the Red Bulls want so-and-so, so now if you want him, you got to pay more, etc., etc. Same thing happens with Inter Miami. There's a lot of times you see a lot of different names come up because they're the it team. And saying that, hey, Inter Miami wants me, drives up my value as a player. Now, if I want to go get signed by another team in Europe or whatever the case is. Let's see. Sean Callahan says tickets were $255 to $301-ish. Southeast corner last I checked. Boss Daddy said I paid $430 for section 115. Eek. King Callum says they should announce Messi MVP before the final to get more buzz. I will touch on that. They should. And I think if MLS had its say, they would. But I don't think it's their call. It should be their call because they're the league. But clearly they want to please Messi, appease Messi. And from what I have, this is information. From what I've gathered, it will not happen before MLS Cup. It will happen at some point after MLS Cup, which I think goes against MLS interest because it doesn't generate buzz for MLS Cup if you do it afterwards. If Inter Miami loses, then that takes some shine off of the MLS Cup announcement because, again, we all assume it's going to be Messi. I was told this. I talked to somebody this week, and when I brought up that topic, I was like, why wouldn't you guys do it before the game? I imagine it will be done before the game. Why wouldn't you, right? It was kind of a rhetorical question. What I was told in return was, this is from a league source, answer your own question. Pretty clear. It's pretty obvious. It's not in MLS's hands entirely. Ooh, this is a hard one to pronounce. Taufik Islam 5170. Miami's balling out, potentially winning the MLS Cup, and Andrea Yanes is under the what a coincidence. Listen. I'm pretty straightforward. My name is Franco. In Spanish, that means frank, which in English means pretty straightforward. Frontal. It's how I am as a person. I don't know if that's I adapted to my name or my name just fit who I was. I don't know, but I have told her that not only you guys, but other people that I talk to privately have said, "Oh, is Andrea only going to show up if Inter Miami loses MLS Cup?" I've let her know that the sentiment is out there. I've let her know that the perception's out there. I remind her whenever she goes on a stretch of not appearing, I remind her. I let her know. She's sick. That's what I've got. That perception can exist. That's her legacy on Miami Total Football Radio. Then so be it. Then so be it. It is what it is. It is what it is. Ish R30 says, why would Messi want it after? So he can focus on football before. That would be my supposition. Because it's a whole media hoopla thing. It's really what MLS MVP is, right? You get acknowledged for a great season. But normally it comes with interviews. Normally it comes with the attention, the spotlight. Normally it comes with all of that. Last year you saw how it was done. Still took some planning. I mean, do you really think that Messi did not know he was going to be named MLS MVP last year before it happened? You think he just magically showed up in a full Messi brand ensemble, like a jumpsuit, a tracksuit, jacket and sweatpants, all Messi branded for the announcement? Maybe he didn't know about the academy players, presenting it to him. Maybe that part he didn't know. Maybe that part they kept from him. But they probably didn't keep it from his entourage. You guys, I know this is hard to fathom sometimes because of what we see from Messi in terms of his personality, in terms of what you see in interviews. Seems like a down-to-earth, quiet, humble type of guy. But he is very carefully managed. Very carefully managed. And there's a lot of ego there in that entourage. A lot. And it's all carefully orchestrated. King Callum says, of course his ass knew. Yeah, pretty much. All right. I think we're going to leave it there. I know it was another solo episode. Tomorrow we should have some better stuff, and I should have either Jose, maybe Ajicita if she's feeling better. Maybe I can get Alonso to pop in for a little bit, although he'll be in Washington, D.C. Who knows if he'll be lost at some party or we'll see. Pythia says, how concerned are you about 5'8" Allen and 5'9" Cello from Ahmed, Sabi, and White? I get the distinct feeling Inter Miami fans are drunk on recent success. Again, the height isn't something Inter Miami's blessed with. Maybe Cello doesn't start, so if Ian Frey gets the nod, then that helps balance things out. I think Inter Miami's been on a great run of form. If you do analyze the NYCFC game, though, it was 2-1 through the 65th minute. It was tighter than the final scoreline indicated, even if Inter Miami was the better team for much of the match. Sean Callahan 8080 says 5'10" short kings! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! King Callum, you got to bring that British guy. We brought him yesterday, King Callum. Weren't you here yesterday? I think you were here yesterday. I'm pretty sure you were here yesterday. But Simon and Jose were both on yesterday. Ideally, I could have split them. One yesterday, one today, gotten their opinions, gotten their analysis and their predictions on separate shows, but schedules did not align that way. Reminder tomorrow, follow us on Twitter, myself, Jose, Andrea, Simon, anybody who you go to for Inter Miami News. Tomorrow will be the newsiest day of the week. It'll be the day that gets you probably most excited for Saturday's game. You're going to hear from Javier Mascherano. You will hear from Thomas Müller and the Vancouver Whitecaps. Who else is speaking tomorrow for Inter Miami? I think Noah Allen speaks. I think Jordi Alba speaks. So you're going to hear from Inter Miami protagonists tomorrow. We will have sights and sounds from practice, from the press conferences. Don Garber will have his State of the League address later in the evening. We'll see if something juicy, tangible, newsworthy of substance comes out of that. Hopefully. Normally there's something. I think the last one or two were not the best, but hopefully we get something. Hopefully there's some good questions. I'm not in DC. Apparently it's going to be in a Zoom type of hybrid role where you can ask questions on Zoom, but normally there's not that many questions on Zoom. So I doubt I'll get one. Hopefully my colleagues from around the league do a good job. Vancouver is in town. The players are here. The team is here. The media contingency has also arrived. So the buzz should start to ramp up. Ishar 30 says Thomas Müller is doing a great job hyping it up, but he unfortunately doesn't have Messi reach. Yeah, and I mean that's the one thing that we can close out on. It is obviously Thomas Müller is not Messi, but Thomas Müller's approach to trying to drum up interest to the game is clearly a much different approach than Messi's. And I feel like a lot of you here today are pretty level-headed fans. Some of you might be diehard Messi fans, but I think I haven't seen anyone really coming at me for any slight criticism of Messi in terms of how he goes about things. Normally, really sensitive subject for some diehard Messi fans, but a lot of you seem pretty level-headed with regards to that aspect. Sometimes you get some really rash Messi fans who get very upset about anything not positive said in his favor. But all right, we'll leave it there. I have a big TV to go play with now that it's been installed, and the reason for my tardiness today. We will be back tomorrow. I will do my best to not make it that I'm alone. Even if I am, which I doubt it, but even if I were to be, we'll have sound bites and clips from the interviews from the day, update you on everything that was said, everything that we saw, anything and everything that happens tomorrow. I will let you know to guys tomorrow on Twitter, on X, what time the show will be. But as always, thank you guys for joining me here for the third consecutive night for some of you. Hopefully this has helped fill in the gaps as we await Saturday's massive, massive game. Should be one you enjoy, a lot of excitement. All right, guys. Give us a follow, a like, a share, a subscribe, ring the bell, do all that good stuff. For now, enjoy the rest of your night. I am Franco Panizo. You have been watching or listening Miami Total Football Radio, the show for a Wednesday edition. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye for now.